All right, welcome back to Speaker Piece Podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton. We're being joined by SYP creator Scott. Scott, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. Good to be back on the podcast. Bit of a different topic. Normally, I'm the hockey guy, but we're gonna talk golf today.
Well, we're going to talk hockey later on in the podcast. We're going to start with our golf conversation first because joining us is Max Kleban, who I don't know if he's our golf expert. Scott's kind of our golf expert too. We get Shmuel on here sometimes. Kevin thinks he knows golf, and Kevin doesn't really know golf. But Max, welcome to the podcast. Glad you could be here. What's going on, Max?
Not much. Just settling in, to university life, actually being on campus for the first time in my career here. So it's fun.
I asked Scott this last week, what's your favorite class so far?
I'm gonna go with the best one by far so far is marketing for sure.
Okay.
None of the other ones are even close to that. So,
what do you like about marketing the most? The subjects, the prof, the people in the class. What do you love about marketing so far? The stocks. You like stocks? Are you talking about stocks in marketing?
It's you talk a little bit about it, but no, it's a fun class, fun environment. Good prof, good material. Unlike I've got some econ courses and whatnot. It's not my cup of tea.
All right, cool. So we're going to start with a Ryder Cup preview. Ryder Cup starts this Friday at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. I personally am very excited for this Ryder Cup. I like Whistling Straits, the course. This is I don't know if this is. It's not on with like Masters or maybe some of the majors, level, but it's still a really popular event. Max, do you have anything what are you most excited about this weekend at the Ryder Cup?
With what we've seen in the recent golf news, that the Bryson Brooks dynamic is probably going to be the most interesting thing to watch. Can they put their troubles aside and come together as a team, which is really what this Ryder Cup is about. You definitely see the U.S. team is probably the youngest it's been, I think, in a long time. And on the other side, the Europeans are going with their vets. So, that's their strategy. And I'm seeing how that's going to play out. That's my most exciting thing about this.
All right. Scott, what are you most excited about for the Ryder Cup this weekend?
Honestly, I will say I did watch a video on the course, just kind of getting an idea of the layout. For research, I did research for this pod. Believe me, I did some research here.
Wow.
The course looks pristine, I must say. It's right on Lake Michigan. It reminds me, if anyone's played Tobiano, for viewers, Tobiano's in Kamloops, it's got a very similar feel to it, kind of like it feels like it's on the ocean, but it's actually a lake. The course looks awesome. It's gonna be a great track. It's gonna be fun just seeing these guys try to rip it up, because some of the holes, there's a 645-yard par 5 out on the track. I think it's 13 or 12. I'm not quite sure, but it's a big one for sure.
All right. So, in case you don't know, the Ryder Cup is a biannual. Is that what's every 2 years?
Every 2 years, yeah.
I don't know if biannual is the right term, but somebody will correct me on that. But pretty much every 2 years, U.S. plays Europe. This year it's in the U.S. In 2 years, it will be in Italy. 2 years ago, it was in France. The U.S. lost, I believe, 2 years ago, correct, to Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah, big time.
Big time. I stayed up watching some of that, and I was very disappointed by the end result. This year, it's a little bit different. I think the U.S. is probably the better team, more depth-wise, if you look at the golfers on the team. Max, do you think the U.S. is the better team with, better personnel, or who do you think is the better team?
Well, I think this is the same thing every year. The U.S. is by far the better team on paper, but how that translates into a team event like this is really the question that everyone asks. Europe is usually the one that can pull it together as a team, work together. There's no drama really between them. So I'm thinking Europe is probably the stronger team, but the U.S. has the stronger players.
Interesting.
Scott, is there a guy on Team USA that you're really excited to see play this weekend in the Ryder Cup?
Well, there's a bunch of them. There again, I'm just looking at the guys that are on this team, and 1 through 7 look insane to me. The fact that Brooks Koepka is on my list, the 7th ranked golfer on this team, just goes to show you how deep the US are. I'm gonna say Justin Thomas purely because he's one of my favorite players on tour for Team USA. And again, to Max's point as well, like the Americans, I will say last time they were on home soil, they did win, albeit it wasn't by much, but they did win. I think they will benefit from having fans at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. Wisconsiners can go pretty nuts sometimes. So yeah, I'm gonna say JT, but there's a bunch of guys I could go with here.
Okay. Max, is there a European player that you're really excited to see play at Whistling Straits?
I gotta go with Victor Hovland.
No,
I love that guy. You know, the young gun. He's been playing great. His game is really suited for this course. You know, he's a long hitter. I really think he's the one that if he can turn it on, he could be a difference maker.
So this is a 3-day event. So day 1, the Friday, we got 4 foursome matches and 4 4-ball matches. The foursome being the alternate shot, the 4-ball being the better ball. It's going to be really interesting to see how this goes in terms of, like Max said, working together as teammates. You know, you're trying to, you know, golf is such an individual sport. And now you're trying to come together and be a team and try and work as one. Who do we think is going to be the guy that fucks up this weekend? That can't work as the team. I don't want to say Bryson, but like, is it Bryson who we think could really fuck this up for Team USA and not work together?
Yeah, you know, I would say Bryson, maybe he could come together, but we look back at his history with, you know, all of the drama with Brooks and other players on tour, and, you know, he just doesn't get along quite well with everyone as well. His game is really not suited for the alternate shot at all, because if he tries to pull one of his big bombs out, then, you know, he's screwed if he hits it out, and that'll just screw up his whole chemistry. So I'm saying it's him.
But again, here's part of the thing too with Bryson. If you put him, I would say if you're Steve Stricker, you're not going to put him in the alternate shot. You're going to put him in the best ball, and he's going to thrive there, especially off the tee. You know, if there's a guy in the middle of the fairway, he can really lean on one and get 350, 360 yards down the fairway and have, you know, the next shot be pretty damn good. So again, lots to consider there. I'm gonna say Morikawa, but
Okay.
I think he's a guy that he's very good as himself and within his own game, but in a team event, especially being a younger guy on the team, he might, if he gets down, if he hits a few bad shots and all the guys around him are doing well, he might kind of I don't know, choke a bit and not hit shots like he should. His iron game is elite when he's on, don't get me wrong, but again, if he's not cooking those irons, then who knows, right? So
I'm interested to see how Sergio Garcia does for Team Europe. I mean, he's a guy who, when he's on, and when he's off, which it seems like he hasn't had the best 2021, he can be really off. I don't know if that's going to impact the team, or if, you know, when you golf and like somebody's having a real shit day and somebody's just like really negative and it's like, fuck, that shot was awful. And just like that guy all day. I don't know if he's going to be that guy, but Sergio Garcia is definitely somebody who I'm intrigued to see how he performs with Team Europe. Max, is there, who is the dark horse, I should say? Who's the dark horse wild card player? Team USA or Team Europe? The dark horse player that you're going to be watching this weekend?
Yeah, you know, for Team USA, it's got to be Daniel Berger. He's always my dark horse whenever it comes to the majors. I always place a little bet on him or something like that. And he always seems to perform in the biggest moments. So I'm saying he could really be a difference maker. Again, as I said earlier, for Europe, I think it'll be Hoblin.
Scott, who's your dark horse player this weekend?
It's a great question. I'm gonna say Tony Finau. Talking about Whistling Straits being a long hitter's course, he's one of those guys. He pops it out there pretty consistently on tour. Finau's had a great couple weeks, especially in the playoffs. He played really well. Had a win as well, which was huge for everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
Finau's my guy on Team USA, and Europe's tough. I'm gonna say Paul Casey, but it could also be Westwood or Fitzpatrick, especially those guys, as those guys are veterans, and in a tournament like this, having some veteran leadership, some good, ability to calm guys down is huge. I would also have said Hovland because he is one of four guys I have kind of highlighted here on Team Europe that if they're all on, they'll win.
Yeah, so that's what it kind of sounds like to me. That's kind of one of the takeaways. One kind of the big stories heading into this weekend is Victor Hoblin, where it sounds like he is going to be an X factor for Team Europe at Whistling Straits. Is that true, Max? Do you think that's right? Saying that Hovlin's an X factor?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good take. If he's on, he's that guy that can hit it out there and consistently. And also he brings that energy that Team Europe really needs. It is a little bit of an older team. So if he brings that youthful energy and he's playing well, he'll get them going.
Scott, you're going to love when I say that my dark horse pick is Tommy Fleetwood.
Of course you are. Yeah, of course you are. I'm not surprised.
That's like one of my go-tos is just saying Tommy Fleetwood. I like Tommy Fleetwood. I like the hair. I like how he plays. I thought he would be a little bit more successful on tour, but he hasn't quite hit where I thought he would hit yet. But dark horse, Tommy Fleetwood, look out. So who are we thinking is going to win this weekend? Are we thinking a tie? Are we thinking, because I think this is, it's in the US. It's on a link style course like Whistling Straits is, which makes it even more interesting. If somebody was placing a bet or somebody was going to put a bet on who we think would win this weekend, Max, who would you suggest people bet on to win this weekend?
Yeah, I think it depends on the odds. I had seen that the US was favored to win in the betting, so I wouldn't think it would be too bad to bet on Europe if you can make a little money, because I think it's going to be a pretty close one this year. I think this may be the year, though, that US breaks their streak of having the more talented team but not performing. So I'm taking the US personally.
Scott, who do you think will be winning this weekend? Who will be lifting the Ryder Cup come Sunday?
Either the US by a landslide or Europe by a hair, by about half a point. So I'm gonna say Europe by half a point, and that's because I'm banking on John Rahm, McIlroy, Victor Hovland, and Sergio Garcia all putting on a show. Those are the four guys I have highlighted, and if those four are dialed in, which they could be, and there's a very good chance that they could be, and if they're all good to go and the rest of the team plays half decent, they'll win.
Max, who do you think is going to be the MVP this weekend?
Ooh, I'm going to say it's going to be JT. I might steal the words from Scott here, but he's that guy. He brings that energy. And without Patrick Reed, your Captain America on the team, he's going to have to step up and be that guy for the US. So I'm going JT.
I think he gets hyped up from like these kind of events, especially on being on home soil as it is this year for the Americans. And I'm with you there too, Matt. I think JT, if the Americans win, he'll be the MVP. And if Europe wins, I'm going to say John Rahm.
Okay. I'm going to say Morikawa.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I really like the kid. Like I get a really good feeling when I see Morikawa play, where it's like, he's a young kid. I think he gets it. I think he understands what it's like, just golfing at a high level. He's never obviously golfed at a Ryder Cup before, but he seems like somebody who would thrive under pressure in this kind of environment. He's thrived under pressure in major championships. So I'm going to say Morikawa, US or Europe. I think he's my MVP. In case you didn't know, there's 28 points available. 14.5 points are required to win. How do we feel about the Ryder Cup itself as a tournament? like if you had the opportunity, if you were like golf's commission, I don't know who runs the Ryder Cup, but if you were the person who got to run the Ryder Cup, would there be any changes that you would want to make to the Ryder Cup to try and improve it or make it better as a tournament?
It's a tough question. I personally like the format. I'm a big match play guy, so I like seeing the pairs and then the singles. I could say maybe the team who just won maybe gets to keep home soil until they lose. I think that can make it so it's a little bit more incentive to win, because currently the only incentive to win is one, bragging rights and pride, and two, in the case of a tie 14-14, your team wins. That's about it. So that could be one thing they could look into.
Scott, if you had the opportunity, what would you change or what would you try and improve with the Ryder Cup?
I'm kind of with Max too, in a lot of respects, and I think the format itself is very good. It's very different from standard PGA Tour or even European Tour golf. Like the whole match play component, you don't see that very often on tour, and it kind of gives people a different perspective on golf, and it makes it very exciting. I think the Ryder Cup itself is almost like a fifth major in many aspects, and I think that part of it's really cool. Especially, I remember just 2016 watching the whole thing in its entirety, and it was just awesome. It was kind of the first like golf event where I truly sat down and watched all of it, and so that was really cool. I don't know about. I think keep it going back and forth is good because it helps kind of grow the game. I guess another thing would be to make it a little bit more international, maybe have more teams involved. Not sure how that would work, but having like
instead of Europe, maybe having individual countries and making it
not like even that, just like a team, I don't know, Team Asia, maybe I still keep Team Europe, but have like Team North America, so include Canada, United States, Team South America, where you get guys like Joaquin Niemann, from Chile, and you get Abraham Answer from Mexico. You could get him, just different, like kind of expanding it a bit more. If golf's trying to grow as a sport worldwide, I think that's one way to do it, is get these players from countries that, are, if you will, far out there that you don't normally see golfers come from. That's the best way to grow the game, right? So.
Okay. Interesting. I one of the reasons why I like the Ryder Cup so much is because of like you have the captains, and then you have like the guys who qualify, whatever, the 6 guys who qualify for your team, and then captains picks. I think I'd like to see more of that in golf, but maybe that's what makes the Ryder Cup so special, because it's the only tournament that really does this sort of stuff of like captains getting to pick their play. Like you could have picked Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed would have been better than maybe Daniel Berger or Scotty Scheffler. But, we all know what kind of guy Patrick Reed is. So maybe that's why you're not taking him. Is there maybe some sort of format like this that maybe we'd see more in the future, more Ryder Cup style events, or is it just the Ryder Cup and it's the biggest grand spectacle, so we'll just keep it as the Ryder Cup? Any thoughts on that, Max?
Yeah, there is the President's Cup. So the Ryder Cup is every 2 years. President's Cup is like the alternate every 2 years. So in between then. So that's the international versus US.
I totally blanked on President's Cup. Yes, that exists.
No, but with that, I have seen, I think the Ryder Cup itself is so iconic that I really don't think they need to change too much about it, because you see these crowds and you see these fans, and it's pretty amazing. But with the President's Cup, I've seen some ideas saying that they should, combine the women's President's Cup, I can't remember the name, and the men's. And so then it's really the best of the both female and male golfers from the US against the best in the world. And I think that would be a very interesting event to watch.
That would be cool. I think curling does that in their Grand Slam tournaments. They'll have like mixed doubles.
Exactly.
That's again similar premise of it, right? But I think that'd be cool. I like that actually. It's good. It's a good idea.
Final question on my end. This is the last thing I have, Max. And Scott, you can answer this too, of course. Who's going to be the least valuable golfer this weekend? Who's going to be the dead weight that each team is going to have to carry? Who is going to be the Ian McNaughton of this Ryder Cup that they're going to have to carry through thick and thin this weekend at Whistling Straits?
For Europe, there's a couple contenders. Some of their players aren't playing their best golf. You've got Lee Westwood, who, he's up in his mid-40s. He hasn't played well for a while.
I actually like Lee Westwood. Like, he was a guy, like, I was like, I know he wouldn't win majors, but it's like, you know what? He's a safe majors pick. Like, he's a safe guy to make the top 10.
I think, yes, that was true earlier this year, but since he had a bit of a good run in March, he hasn't been doing too well. I don't think it will be him, though. I think on the Europe side, it'll be Tyrrell Hatton. He has been atrocious for the past couple months here. Like, he is probably like last in strokes gained everywhere. So he's the biggest dead weight. On the US side, I think Scotty Scheffler, isn't that he's not suited for this course. He's a bomber and he can get it out there. I just don't think they'll play him. I think they'll lean to some of their more trusted guys, even though a lot of them are rookies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite impressive of a team when, according to the final points list, like, Jordan Spieth is 9th.
Yeah.
Like, that also goes to show, like, I know Spieth is not, the great guy that he's kind of been hyped up to be, but the fact that he's like the 9th best golfer according to the points list for Team USA, it's like, okay, this guy's pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
this guy's good. Scott, who's the dead weight Ian McNaughton taking part in in Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits this weekend?
For Team USA, it's going to be Harris English. Weird feeling. I just think, I don't know, he's one of those guys that I could be very wrong here. He could be like one of the best contributors to Team USA, and he could be. He's had a pretty decent season for the most part. Team Europe, Ian Poulter. I think older guy. I don't know. I don't think he's the right guy for this course. If it was a course that was less, I was more forgiving, maybe would be the right word. If it was more forgiving and a little bit shorter, I think he'd be a great fit. And again, he brings the veteran experience. But again, on a loaded Europe team with veterans, they kind of don't need him. Like, he's kind of the odd man out, So I'm gonna say Ian Poulter as my dead weight. My Ian McNaughton, dead weight, shoots 120. Classic Big E.
You're going to be disrespecting Ian's this weekend, I see, is how you like to do things. Max, This has been great. Do you have any final thoughts, any other notes or anything you want to get off your chest, or anything about this tournament that you want to share?
I hadn't mentioned it earlier when we were talking about guys we want to see, but Xander Schauffele, coming off of a gold medal representing the U.S., that's his most recent time representing this country. So he's coming into this group stage here. I think he could also be a difference maker. But as well, I'm just super excited to see how this course plays and to see, all the fans and all the excitement. There's just a certain energy around the Ryder Cup that you just can't recreate.
Scott, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to share about this?
Max hit it on the head. The course looks, based on the video I just watched of the course, it looks unreal. I'm really excited to see these guys take it on, and I'm just, hoping. I looked at the price. It's a public course, so you can actually go and play it. Price to play is $410, including cart and plus caddies $50, plus tip for the caddies another $50. So we're looking at a $600 round. But again, unreal course. It looks like a good time. These guys are gonna hopefully rip it up, and we'll see some good action, good golf action for sure.
I could not enjoy, I think, spending $600 on a round just for me to walk all over the place, lose balls, and just, hit it into the water a dozen times in the round. I don't think I would enjoy that. Yeah. Max, this has been great. It's been great chatting with you, man. Do you have anything you want to plug or anything you want to share or anything you're working on before we head out here?
No, not really. No, I just want to say thanks for having me. I'm here anytime. I can be that golf expert. And I guess if people want to follow, I have a Max Kleban Golf Instagram account. I don't post as much as I should on there, but
Pretty inactive, I must say.
yeah,
We'll tag
I'm
you.
working on it.
We'll at least give you the tag, because don't worry, we also have inactive accounts, but we'll give you the tag on that, and we can help promote that.
Yeah.
Scott, what's the update on the Kelowna hockey?
So the KJRHL, so currently the jerseys are getting sorted. We're waiting on the logo. Once that comes in, I'll send it to the guys doing the jerseys, my guys at Chevy's Source for Sports. So if you're in Kelowna and you need your skate sharpened, come see me working at Chevy's, or any of the boys. The boys know how to get it done. So yeah, go check out Chevy's. That's where we're getting our jerseys done. And yeah, it should be good. Well, hopefully we'll get them for night one, and we'll get some content going once we get those jerseys, and it'll be good. Yeah, looking forward to it. For sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Max, for coming on. We'll do another golf pod here soon. Scott and I will be right back as we discuss the Metro division. So thanks again, Mac. We'll be back soon. All right, welcome back. Scott and I now are going to be going through the NHL's Metro division. Sponsored by the New York Subway. That's who we should have done an ad read for, was the New York City subway system. Or the long, or the.
I thought about like New York City's like Subway, like the restaurant. I thought you were talking about.
Oh no, that's not what I was referring to at all. Or the what is it, the Long Island Expressway?
I was gonna say Staten Island Ferry could be a sponsor for this too.
Yeah, there you go.
More thinking.
Last week we talked about the Atlantic.
Yep.
Fairly concise division. We kind of had a pretty good idea of where it was going and who was going to do well and who would be successful in it. This week we're doing the Metro, and who the fuck knows what's going to happen in this division. That's why we both got drinks for this. So, you know, if we do get a pick wrong, we can just say that we were drinking, and that's why. Yeah, that hits the spot. So last week we started from teams we thought were going to be in the basement to teams that we thought were going to be like really high in the playoffs. We're gonna kind of go through that this week, but I think here's the thing. So here's my thoughts on the Metro. I think there are 6 potential teams in this division.
Yep, I agree with that. That's very valid.
I think New Jersey is a bit of a reach to make the playoffs this year.
They're a reach, but again, that's one of those things, like you said off the top, who the fuck knows who's going to go where. They're one of those teams that could surprise a bunch of us, depending on a few guys, but we'll get into that once we talk about the first team we're going to talk about.
So we're going to start with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were coming off a weird year last year where Torts probably stayed for 1 year too late. Yep. They did the Laine Dubois trade, as well as Jack Roslovic was in that trade as well at the beginning of last season. This year they got Brad Larson as their new head coach. Their goalie situation, it's still Merzlikins, Korpisalo. So goaltending, they're still pretty consistent.
Solid. Merzlikins just signed a 5-year deal today, actually. Yeah,
just as we record this. There's still plenty of pieces on this team. Zach Rowensky is on this team. He's the team's top defenseman. Seth Jones is not there anymore. Max Domi is still on his team. Boone Jenner looks to be like another assistant captain. Bjorkstrand, Patrick Laine, Jakub Voracek, who they just added over the offseason. But I think the takeaway with Columbus is that if there's any team who for sure will not make the playoffs, it's probably the Blue Jackets.
Oh, 100%. They don't have a number one center on their team. And as we know in this league, there's a premium to pay for centers, and a lot of times you got to draft them. And they did draft Kent Johnson 5th overall this year, which, by the way, is one of the best picks in the draft, but we talked about that earlier. I will say Columbus did have a great draft, and I think you can agree with that as well, Ian. And but this team,
it's pretty hard not to have a good draft when you have 3 first-round picks.
First-round picks, absolutely. But again, the point being is that they're not a playoff team, and they're gonna have another year in the basement, albeit a very good Metro division, but they won't make the playoffs.
So they also added Jake Bean from Carolina. they acquired Sean Corrali from Boston, who is not actually a bad player. And, they re-signed Jenner, Line A, Eric Robinson, Alex Texier.
Yeah, Texier, yeah.
Texier. I don't want to be like the don't sleep on Columbus like Keith, but like I think in 3 and 4 years, this team could be like, as some of the teams and top teams in the Metro get older and they decline a bit more, Columbus could be a team in 3 or 4 years that can really be a successful, exciting team to watch.
Oh, no doubt. And I think just looking at this top 6, and even some of their defense core to me doesn't excite me that much, but some of their top 6 they can trade as rentals and get some really good assets from and kind of start to keep stockpiling their already solid draft pick pool, which will eventually become their prospect base.
So we talked a little bit about it last week. X factors or players to watch this season on teams. I'll give you mine. I'll say Voracek. Okay. Because he was traded straight up for Cam Atkinson. Cam Atkinson was a fan favorite in Columbus. He was a guy that people really like. Now he gets traded for Voracek, who I guess has a higher ceiling as a forward. Not quite the same guy as Atkinson is, but this is kind of the 1-for-1 trade where it's like, okay, it's easy to kind of tell who won the deal based on how well each player performs, right?
Absolutely.
You can go through in mid-February, Voracek has 55 points and Atkinson has 45 points. So maybe Voracek is a bit better than Atkinson, that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. Again, this is Voracek's second time in Columbus. So he does know the team. He knows the city. He was drafted by Columbus after all in the first round, I believe, a couple years, or not a couple years, like a while ago now, 2007, I think. I'm going to go with Patrick Laine as my X factor. And purely for the reason that we should watch if he wants out of Columbus, he might get traded. And he might be one of those rental pieces I talked about. That, especially if Columbus is a seller at the deadline, which they most likely will be. Watch for him. Yeah, but if he puts up 25, 30 goals, he might be really attractive to some teams, right? So we'll see.
So we both agree that Columbus is going to finish last in the Metro. Let's go with the team next that we think is going to finish second to last in the New Jersey Devils.
Yep.
So the Devils, actually, again, they don't have that awful of a roster. Your goalies are Jonathan Bernier and Mackenzie Blackwood.
That's a pretty solid tandem, I gotta say.
Fairly solid tandem. Yeah. D-core, you got Ryan Graves, Dougie Hamilton, PK Subban, Ty Smith, Damon Severson. Not a bad D-core.
Dare I say that's a top 10 D-core in the NHL? Maybe even top 5? Maybe.
I mean, it's not bad. Jonas Siegenthaler. This team isn't that bad defensively.
They're not, especially with Blackwood and net. They've built from the back out, and they've got a good goalie and, like you said, a solid D-core. I will say the Dougie Hamilton signing is huge, and he does make this team better right away, especially when you're moving Subban as your third pair right shot defenseman. It's pretty good.
So the forward group is probably where you're most concerned, because I think there is some worry about where goals might be coming from. But I mean, you got Hischier, you got Jack Hughes, you got Pavel Zacha, maybe he can pick it up this year. Maybe he can bounce back. Yegor Sarangovich. Yep. I'm getting these names, not butchering them all. Jesper Voquist, Jesper Brott, Andreas Johnsson, Thomas Tatar, Miles Wood. It's not even that. I don't think it's as good as compared to the D-core, but I think it's still a top 20 forward group in the league.
Yeah. Again, here's the thing: that this is a pretty young forward group, and this is probably one of the youngest teams in the NHL, if I'm not mistaken. They have Daily Faceoff has Nolan Foote on their fourth line. Again, who knows where he's actually going to end up on the team? He might even play further up in the lineup, but yeah.
Michael McLeod is on this team.
Yep. a lot of ex Hockey Canada World Junior guys, but
Chase Stillman?
I don't think he's on the roster, but
No, he got drafted this past year.
He got drafted this past year. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, I will say Heischer and Hughes in your 1-2 in the middle in a couple years, that's going to be really scary. But Hughes isn't quite there yet. He's close, but he's not quite there.
I mean, they did lose Will Butcher in the offseason. They traded Nick Merkley to San Jose. They got Frederick Gauthier, Jimmy Vesey.
I still think they're a better team than they were last year. And a lot of that's because of their improved decor with Graves and Hamilton coming in.
Do you know who the coach is for New Jersey? Without searching it up, can you tell me who the coach is on New Jersey?
I feel like, who is it? I don't actually know.
Don't search it up. I'm
not looking it up. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be someone really obvious that I'm just forgetting. Is it?
It wasn't that obvious when I first saw it.
Is it John Hines?
It's not. He's in Nashville.
That's right. He's in Nashville now. He was in New Jersey for a bit. Who is it?
Lindy Ruff.
Wow. I don't know that. Yeah,
that seems weird with this like that just seems like a weird mix with this roster and the coaching staff. Or is that just me?
It's not a Lindy Ruff team. If you ask me, like coach was brought in because he's got good tenure and a lot of experience, but this doesn't really scream like a Lindy Ruff team. I don't know. I just don't see a lot of like outside of like Miles Wood and McLeod a little bit. I don't see a lot of bite on this team, and usually Lindy Ruff's teams are pretty like. Not heavy, but play with a bit of an edge,
I part of it, I think this team will finish second to last in the division.
I agree.
And that's mostly because of how good everybody else is. I don't think it's necessarily about like how bad the Devils are, because I think the Devils could probably make the playoffs if they were maybe in the Central Pacific.
I don't know about that. I don't think they're that good yet.
All right.
They need another year. I will say they're if they had a better forward core and could actually put the puck in the net, you're right, different story. They could make the playoffs, but they just don't have that quite yet.
They need one more piece on offense.
At least two.
At least two? Okay.
At least two. And again, we'll see what Nolan Foote does development-wise, but if he becomes kind of like a middle to the top six scoring winger, can put up 20, 25 goals, different story. But we'll see. We'll see what happens for sure.
Let's keep it in the New York metro area. And let's discuss the Rangers next.
Okay.
So
I like it.
The Rangers had a weird kind of end of last year into this year where they had the whole Tom Wilson thing at the end of last season.
Yep.
And then David Quinn gets fired. They get Gerard Gallant as their new head coach.
Yep. But
they also do some weird, intriguing moves in the offseason where they acquire Barclay Goodrow for a 7th round pick, which that in itself isn't actually too bad, but they gave him a 6-year deal.
Okay. Yeah.
They got assets for Brett Howden.
Somehow.
You trade Pavel Buchnevich to the Blues for Sammy Blais and a 2nd round pick, which, I mean...
To be honest, I think the Rangers win that trade, but that's just me.
I think it probably works out for both sides in the end.
It does. In the end, yeah, for sure.
And then they also get Ryan Reeves for a 3rd round pick in 2022 from Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, they get Patrick Nemeth, Jared Tenorti.
Some depth guys. Nothing.
They finally buy out Tony DeAngelo.
Finally, yeah.
I guess the question is, what are the Rangers and where are they going?
They're developing. That's my word for the Rangers. Man, are they close though. This could be the year. They had 2 award winners last year. They had Panarin won Lady Byng, I believe. Adam Fox won the Norris.
He won a Norris, yes.
Won the Norris, and then I'm pretty sure Panarin won Lady Byng.
So
Let me
their
just
their defense is actually, I think, a bit underwhelming considering the other groups we've mentioned. Like Adam Fox won a Norris. K'Andre Miller is a really good defenseman. I don't know if he gets enough praise for how good he is.
Yeah.
I like Ryan Lindgren. Libor Hayek is a fine defenseman.
Yep.
And that's your top four. It's a bit of a
outside of Adam Fox, very underwhelming. I think that's a good call.
It's a bit of a stretch. I think Miller and Fox are your top four. Is a bit of a and Trouba. Trouba is the other guy that I'm missing on that.
Right.
Trouba is I forgot about Trouba. So Trouba, yeah, okay. It's a bit of a stretch with that top four, I think. I like Trouba. I like Fox. I like K'Andre Miller, but I don't know how that translates for the rest of this team.
Yeah, they need another guy in there to really make it worthwhile.
For offensively, you have a weird mix of play where you have like Philip Sheedle, Mika Zibanejad, Ryan Strome, but you have Alexis Lafreniere, you have Capocacco, and you have Panarin, but then you also have the Barclay Goodrows, the Sammy Blythes, the Ryan Reeves.
I will say I do like the Rangers forward core. That first line last year, the first line with Buchnevich, Panarin, Zibanejad was lethal, no doubt about it. And again, another step from Kravtsov this year. Lafreniere is going to hopefully take another big jump. This is a scary looking top six, and with Kreider and Chittle on and Goodrow as a third line, that's pretty good. If you combine the Rangers and the Devils, that's an elite team right there. I gotta say.
Sure.
I gotta say, a hot take right there. Combine Rangers and Devils, that's the number one team in this division, but that's not how it works. So, yeah.
I don't know. I just think I want the Rangers to be good. I want them to be successful. I want them to be a really good team. Mm-hmm. I just don't. They're kind of all. You know what it is? I think with the Rangers is that I think they are partially built for the regular season, but then also built for the postseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if they get to the postseason with those guys right now.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think they're quite there. I think you're right. They're close, and they're definitely going to be an exciting team to watch this year. But again, they're just not quite there.
X Factor guy you're going to be watching this year?
Lafreniere. If he's a stud. I mean, you're probably going to say Lafreniere too. If he's a stud and if he can put up 60, 70 points, which he could do, his first year wasn't so good. And again, during COVID, that affects people different ways. And maybe he was a guy that didn't get off to the right jump. This year, fresh training camp, fresh start, he might put on a show. And especially being the second best left winger on that team behind Panarin, who, by the way, did not win an award this year. It was just Adam Fox, who won the Norris.
Good for you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear, make sure I know what I'm talking about. But no, Lafreniere is going to hopefully take a big jump, and yeah, he's got the skill and the ability to do it. So if he does, then look out.
So my X Factor player to watch, I'm going to say Ryan Reeves.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I think he does really well in the Rangers organization. He gets to play in Madison Square Garden in the one of the biggest cities in the world. I remember reading Sean Avery's book about just the larger in life kind of status that New York has and Madison Square Garden has and playing for the Rangers has. When you get to be that guy in that city, in that arena. And I know it's not Vegas. Vegas is a different beast than what New York is.
Absolutely.
But I really think that Reeves will thrive and he'll have fun and he'll make it entertaining in the world's most famous arena.
No doubt. I think Reeves is a guy that he's kind of, I think he was St. Louis, and he went to New York or to Vegas, and now he's in New York, kind of moving up in a way. And I like it. I like that point, actually. It's a really good point. He's gonna thrive. I think he'll have a good time, and he'll be like kind of a steadying force. He'll be kind of like McSorley to. I don't want to compare the Rangers to the '80s Oilers, but I'm just saying like he's gonna be that kind of guy, like kind of a steadying force, and obviously a guy that a Tom Wilson, a call it Jordan Martin up in Carolina, or a guy like I don't know, name your enforcer that's gonna pick on the good
Milan Lucic.
Milan Lucic, for example. Yeah, there you go. He's gonna be the guy that's gonna say, "No, sir, like don't fuck around with my stars," because he's gonna.
You're not touching Panarin or Laugh or Kako or any of those guys.
That won't be a problem. That won't be a problem anymore in New York, no doubt about it.
And it was the same with Barclay Goodrow, but like Reeves is like that's the first guy that comes to mind for me.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Philadelphia. Let's move it. Let's go with the Flyers.
Okay.
So they did not have a good year last year.
No.
I think they were one of the teams that was really that it really impacted them COVID wise, like not actually COVID physically itself, just how the season played out, how the divisions were played out, all that sort of like having to go to Tahoe and you play like a game in Tahoe and you have to do that trip. And there were injuries last year. I think there were a lot of different factors that impacted Philadelphia last season.
Yep. For sure.
That being said, they are a fringe playoff team. This is, an even year coming up. They do make the playoff. They do make the playoffs every other year.
Every other year. Can I spit a hot take? This is time for my hot take. I was waiting for this team. I was wondering where you're gonna put
it. Let me hear it.
The Flyers will finish in second place behind the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay.
It's maybe not a hot take, but let's just say I think we can both agree on this. Carter Hart is the number one candidate for a bounce back year. There's no arguing that whatsoever. And he's gonna do it. He's gonna put up a great year. I don't think he'll be Vezina caliber, but he'll be close. And again, he's got a great team in front of him. The Flyers on paper are a very good team, especially with their newer additions. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if Philadelphia has a really good, like if they make the playoffs this year, right?
Yep.
It's because Carter Hart has like a 250 GAA or less and like a 925, 930 save percentage.
Yep.
Like that's what the bare minimum is for him. And that's I think what's expected of Carter Hart.
Yeah, I think that's like the average Carter Hart. That's what we would expect to see. Elite Carter Hart will have 210 or less goals against average with a 930 plus save percentage. I'm with you there. And again, with some new additions, kind of some fresh faces. Again, we can talk about Ryan Ellis. Maybe the decor is basically overhauled. Ryan Ellis, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Keith Yandle are all new additions onto the Flyers decor. So, yeah.
I like Ryan Ellis.
Yep, so do I.
Wasn't really the biggest fan of Ristolainen. I thought it was a bit of an overpay for him.
Sure. Okay.
I didn't get the Goss to Despair, the Ghost trade. I get that it's a bit of an expensive cap, but I think you could have found teams that were I refuse to believe that there were not teams that were willing to pay assets for Shane Goss to Spare, and instead you had to throw in a second and a seventh to get him out of there. I find that hard to believe.
Right. I mean, again, here's the thing. That's great, but again, do you think Keith Yandle is a better, maybe not player, but a better asset for the Flyers than Goss to Spare is? Do you think?
Probably. I mean, if here's the thing for Yandle. If shit really hits the fan this year for Philadelphia, they can probably move Yandle at the deadline.
They can move a few of those guys on that list.
Sure.
But yes, he's one of the candidates for sure.
But Philadelphia, what they need for Philadelphia to have a playoff season, right?
Yep.
Carter Hart needs to bounce back.
Yes. Yes.
Their defense needs to be really good.
Yep.
Not really good, but like top 10 in goals against.
Yep.
And you need scoring.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the lines are. You can tell me what the lines look like for the Flyers this year. But I mean,
Nope. I'll just quickly run it down. JVR, Couturier, Konechny's your first line.
so that has to be JVR, who led the team in scoring last year.
Yep, he did.
JVR that has to be a top 10 first line.
I think it might be.
It has to be. If they're going to make the playoffs, that has to be a top 10 first line.
Yep. Yeah. And then you got Giroux, Atkinson, and Joe Farabee as your second line, which, again, pretty solid. But, again, those guys got to be going.
Yeah.
But, again, we can talk about this with every team. If every player on the team's going, then they'll make the playoffs. And, again, you said it's an even year, so the Flyers will be going this year. Right?
Pretty much. X factor on the team for you?
Ryan Ellis.
Okay.
Ryan Ellis for sure. As he's, again, he wasn't the top dog in Nashville because there was a couple other guys that were better than him. But now he's the guy. And I'm thinking he's going to be thriving really well in Philly. It's it is a hostile environment. Again, love it if you're a Flyers guy, but if you're a Penguin going in that barn, it sucks. So I'm going to say Ellis, and I think he's going to have a great year, and he's going to turn it on as the number one guy in Wells Fargo Center.
I'll say Claude Giroux.
Yep.
I think if Voracek is, getting shipped out, there's a chance they might ship out Giroux.
Wow.
I truly thought those two were like kind of peas in a pod, kind of like 1-2 together. And if you got rid of one, there's probably a chance that you're willing to move the other.
Right. Interesting.
If you look at Claude Giroux, I'm going to do this quickly here.
Sure.
Claude Giroux stats. Okay.
Yes.
So Giroux
Yep.
had 43 points in 54 games last year. Okay.
Yep.
He's a pretty healthy player.
For the most part, he's whole career. Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep.
He had 53 points in 2019-20 before the league shut down. 85 points in 2018-19 in 82 games, so a little over a point per game, but pretty much a point per game player.
Yep.
Had 102 points and 68 assists in 2017-18.
It's a good year.
58 points in 2016-17, 67 in 15-16, 73 in 14-15, 84 in 13-14. So like 93 in 11-12. So like he hits like these highs and these lows almost. And even like the lows, like he had 58 points in 16-17.
Right.
I wonder if he doesn't get it right this year, if he struggles this year, if he only putting up 60 points this year at the cap hit that he's on right now, which according to Hockey Reference, 8.275.
That's a lot of money for a second line center.
It's a lot of money for a second line center. It's a lot of money if he doesn't score 80 points this year.
Yep, it is. And again, maybe it's the thing he needs a change of scenery. I think he is the captain of the Flyers, so there is something to be said about that. But again, to your point you talked about earlier, maybe it's time the Flyers ship him out. If he's not performing, if he's not doing what he should. But again, we'll see. I like that's a good X factor pick. I like that. It's a good one.
It's not like the contract year type big season for him, but it is still like an important year, I would say.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
Especially for him being at the age he is. He's not that old, but again, at the age he is, he's got to do something here.
Let's go with in-state rival Pittsburgh Penguins for our next team.
Yep.
So they had a really underwhelming end to last year.
Yeah, really did. I mean, they did finish first in the restructured Atlantic.
They
Division.
finished first in their division, and they lost in 6 games to the Islanders.
6 games to the Islanders, yeah.
So, with that being said, this almost feels like a make or break season for this team in a way, does it not?
Yeah, in a lot of aspects, I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, we all thought Pittsburgh wasn't making the playoffs last year, and they ended up finishing first in the division. So there's, some there's something to be said about that. So
your goalies this year are Tristan Jarry, who really was underwhelming by the end of last year.
Yep.
Casey DeSmith.
Yep.
Louis Domingue is your third goalie. So
okay.
On defense, Brian Dumoulin, you got Chris Letang, John Marino, Mike Matheson, Marcus Pedersen, Chad Ruedel.
Yep.
I don't know, man.
Again, but here's the thing is that decor more or less has been the same since their 2 back-to-back cups. More or less, there's a few guys that have changed, yeah. But again, the structure and kind of how the players are, their types of roles, they're all pretty similar. Like they've got their one top dog in Letang. Dumoulin's a fine defenseman, but he's no top pair defenseman. He's maybe top 4, yeah, but maybe not your prototypical top pairing defenseman like he's projected as on Daily Faceoff. I'm with you. Like it doesn't look good, but man, when you have Crosby, Malkin, 1 and 2 in the middle, never bet against them.
So the forwards, Crosby, Malkin, Zach Aston Reese is on this team. Teddy Bluger is on this team.
Brian Rust is still on this team.
Brian Rutt, Jeff Carter. Jake Gensel is only 26 years old.
Only 26. Can you believe that?
Kasperi Kapanen. Jason Zucker. Like, Danton Heinen is on this team.
Former Duck.
There's a world in which, this forward group could be a really good, solid team.
Solid group.
Offensively.
Yep.
They lost Brandon Tanev in the expansion deal. They lost Cody Ceci.
I think Tana's going to be, with such a locker room guy, they're going to have a hard time trying to replace him. Where that comes from, I don't know.
Brock McGinn, maybe.
Maybe Brock McGinn, maybe Danton Heinen. When I met Danton Heinen actually last year, I played Black Mountain. He happened to be in the group in front of us, so fun story. So I actually met Danton Heinen. Yeah,
you're gonna throw that out there? That's like your weird flex, but okay. It's like, I met Danton Heinen. I know who he is.
Not a big deal. I was wearing a Ducks hat, and he noticed the hat. And he came over and said hi and had a quick chat.
Should have asked him to sign it.
Oh, I should have. I didn't have a pen on me. Anyways, it was a black hat. Black pen wouldn't have worked. But no, all things considered, like he's kind of a quiet guy. He's not like a very big, brash, outspoken personality, kind of like Brandon Tanev is. He's a little more out there, outgoing. But again, like I said off the top, Crosby and Malkin are just so good, and they're great. Crosby especially is one of the best leaders of all time in the NHL. So.
And obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but like a thing to mention with the Penguins is Ron Hextall is their GM and Brian Burke is in the organization doing something. He's a part of the upper management group. So I don't know how that plays into this, but it's just something I thought I should mention. I thought I'd bring it up to people.
I mean, those are two of the better hockey minds in the game, and they're both on one team, which is, something to be said about that, right? So again, we'll see how it goes. I have them as a playoff team.
Okay.
They're a playoff team in my book here. So
who's your X factor or guy to watch on the Pens this season?
Jeff Carter.
Ooh, I like that.
Jeff Carter had a really strong second half. As soon as he came over from Los Angeles, he tore it up, and he kind of helped the Penguins get to first place in the division, albeit they did lose in the first round. But the fact that he, at his age, he's an 03 draft, so he's 35, 36. He's getting old, but he still produces. He still puts the puck in the net, and he is one of the generation's finer goal scorers, especially in the last decade. So
I will say he's overpriced for that role as a third line center.
Sure.
But that's a really good situation. Like that's a really good spot, a really good situation for him being the third line center behind Crosby and Malkin. And you just throw a couple wingers and they'll make it work. They're Pittsburgh. They'll figure it out. Who's my X factor on the Penguins this year? You know, I don't know if we've mentioned goalies, but I'll say Tristan Jarry.
Yep. Okay. I like that.
If again, similar to Giroux, put up or shut up. Like if he doesn't do well this year, they'll get a new goalie. Ron Hextall will get a new goalie. He will find a better replacement. He might play for the Penguins. I mean, I don't think he will because he's been such a Flyers legend. But you know what I'm saying? He will find a good goalie if Jarry isn't the answer.
I don't know if Ron Hextall will ever throw on a Penguins jersey in his life.
I don't think he would. I don't think that's him, but
no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't dare.
So your X factor is Carter. My X factor is Tristan Jarry. I'll throw it to you. I'm interested. What's the team is there another team you want to chat about or discuss here? I've been kind of leading the way here, but
yeah, I think we should talk about Washington next, the Capitals. And just purely on the fact that, well, we'll see what happens with the Capitals. I want to hear your thoughts on the Capitals. They're a very weird team this year.
Isn't that like every team in this division though? Like they're like we think they're good, but like their roster build is like between the Caps, the Flyers, the Pens, the Rangers, even the Devils with who their coach is. It's like a weird mix.
Like all I'm gonna say, the Capitals didn't really do anything in the offseason. There is nothing that notable that they did. And so, I mean, based on daily. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, they made a couple trade. They traded it for draft picks with Arizona. They traded Brandon Dillon to Winnipeg for 2 second rounders, which that's a really good deal if you're Washington getting
that's a great deal for Washington, yeah. And
they traded one of those second rounders from Winnipeg that they got for Brandon Dillon to Seattle for Vitek Vanacek, who they drafted. Seattle drafted the expansion draft. So,
yep.
I mean otherwise they signed Matt Irwin, Dylan McElrath.
But again, these are all depth guys. They're not going to see the ice that much, especially.
Well, maybe it's like maybe it's like a Moneyball thing where they were between Irwin and McElrath they should replace Brandon Dillon.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. So you have Ilya Samsonov, Vitek Vanacek as your goalies.
Yep.
John Carlson, D-man, Nick Jensen, I like. Dmitry Orlov, Justin Schultz, Michael Kempney, I think is injured. He should be getting back in there at some point this year.
He'll be back this year, yeah.
A guy, I don't know if he's my X factor, but I think a guy that I'm, interested in on the Capitals is Alex Alexeyev.
Oh, Alexeyev, yeah.
Alexeyev.
Yeah. Yep.
I've totally butchered that name. You can again. I'm just about done here. But Alexeyev, I saw him play a few times in the Canada-Russia series a few years ago.
That's right. Yeah, right.
Can't believe he's only 21, but that dude's really good. At least in junior, he was really good. I don't know if he's got any NHL experience, but maybe he'll do well with. He played 12 games with Hershey last year. Yeah, maybe he'll do well with Washington. He'll get some time with the Caps.
I'm thinking Alexeyev's going to stay down in Hershey this year, but next year he might come up. I just think Washington's got enough guys already on their team.
It's kind of like a what's the name Romanoff situation in Montreal, where it's just like he's the offensive defenseman that might provide a boost every once in a while, but they maybe don't need him because they got other guys who are doing well. So
Alexeyev will have to play his way into a spot on this team. I don't see where he's going to go. But again, we'll see what happens. Who knows, right? So my X factor, oh my gosh, there again, nothing's changed. That's the thing. It's hard to like provide an X factor. I think I said Kuznetsov last year.
I think I know who your X factor should be.
It should be Ovechkin.
No,
And-
that's not who your X factor should be.
No, who is it?
Connor McMichael.
That's not my X factor. There's no way. He's not even gonna play. He's gonna be in Hershey this year again.
Oh no, dude, he's like the perfect Scott Konkin X factor. Like played for Team Canada at the World Juniors. He's a CHL player. He's a center, a big centerman.
Yeah, but it's not that big. To be honest, I'm not super high on McMichael. I just
Okay.
something about him just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know what it is. Honestly, from that draft, I think he has the biggest potential to be a bust. That's a hot take, but it's a really hot take, actually. Something to me is off about him. I don't know what it is.
Okay, well, let's go through the rest of Washington's forward group because you have Nicholas Backstrom at center, obviously Evgeny Kuznetsov, who they're going to try and get rid of at some point this season, you would think.
Probably.
Lars Eller still exists.
Still exists.
Nick Dowd still exists.
Yep.
Connor McMichael and Garrett Pilon might get time this year, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
That's your center spot. Your wingers, Carl Hagelin, Alex Ovechkin, Connor Sheary, Garnet Hathaway. I really like Garnet Hathaway, by the way.
I like Hathaway's a good player.
I really like him. Anthony Manta, who they acquired last deadline. TJ Oshie, getting old at 34 years old. He's getting up there.
Old, but still effective. Still very effective.
Somewhat effective. And then you have Tom Wilson, who's going to get suspended twice this season.
Once, and it's going to be big. It's going to be like an 8 or 9 game suspension, I'm thinking.
Okay. I mean, I said, Alexeyev is my kind of guy I'm interested in. TJ Oshie is kind of my X factor because they, talked about him going to Seattle at the expansion draft. It didn't happen. Now he's still in Washington with a big cap hit. 34 years old.
Yep. I'm going to say Ovechkin. This is Ovechkin's team. It still is. It will be until he retires or goes to Dynamo Moscow. But the Ovechkin train, if he's going, the rest of the team's going. And I really hope he puts up 40 this year, because if he does, Gretzky better look out.
I guess the other X factor or guy to watch should be Samsonov.
Yep, definitely.
How the goaltending is going to be. Like, I think he's fine. One of the things that was fascinating to me last year about Washington, I don't know if team chemistry is something that concerns me, but they were a team that I want to say had like multiple COVID outbreaks, multiple COVID players missing time because of, COVID or false positives or
Well, they had the whole thing with it was Kuznetsov, Orlov, Samsonov, and Ovechkin were all in the same room and they weren't supposed to. And then Ovi's wife went on the record. She was pissed about that whole thing, saying like they basically hang out all the time. Why can't they be in the hotel room together for team bonding? It was a whole thing, but
it was a whole thing. And I just feel like last year was, and with how it ended too, because they thought they were going to beat Boston. Like, I think they thought they were better than the Bruins last season in the first round of the playoffs.
The Capitals were the better team. The Bruins just, got lucky. But.
And as a result now, I wonder how that impacts them this season. I just wonder if there's maybe some team chemistry. There's like, they're probably pissed with how last season played out and they think they're better than that, and maybe they are. So they can use this momentum one way or another.
Yeah, I think especially, they won the Cup in 2018. And since then, they've been pretty underwhelming in the playoffs. Yeah. And I think that's going to kind of fuel them a bit to do some damage in, now that they're back in their, quote, normal divisions. I think again, I don't have them as a playoff team here, but that's because I have Philly taking an absolute shot up through the roof because of Carter Hart. But however, having said that, they do have the potential to jump over a Pittsburgh, for example, or a Philly if they falter and they might. You never know. Again, once you get to playoffs, you never know. But
we have 2 teams left. Which one do you want to talk about?
we love the Ianlanders, so let's talk about them.
All right, let's talk about the Ianlanders. So this is the New York Islanders, in case you're wondering. Some people love the nickname Ianlanders. Other people hate the nickname Ianlanders.
But it's an taste. The Ianlanders is an acquired taste.
It's an acquired taste. That's a great way of putting it.
It is.
They've kind of been my bandwagon team. So pretty much, if you don't know, last year I did have them in the top 4.
You did. Yep.
And they made the top 4. And the year before, when they were in a bubble, I said during the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals that the Islanders were going to be in the 2020 Stanley Cup Finals. And they were 2 wins short of doing that against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So if there's anybody who's kind of been on the Islanders bandwagon for like the last 2 years, it's been Big E, 2.5 years. What do you like about the Islanders?
That's two words. Matt Barzal.
Okay.
Let me just tell
Let me
you.
give you a few minutes here to just discuss
let me speak my piece. So there's a lot to like about Matt Barzal, especially being a BC guy. First of all, he's from Coquitlam, BC, so he's local-ish to us, and especially to you, Ian, being in Burnaby. Second of all, the kids, go watch Matt Barzal highlight clips and come back and listen to this podcast. You will thank me later. He's a beast.
Just stop what you're doing right now and go watch Matt Barzal highlights on YouTube.
Well, watch top 10 highlights from 2020-21 season. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The kid's ridiculous. I will say I think he's one of the elite centers in the league. He's not McKinnon, McDavid, Matthews level yet. But he's close. He's not Crosby level either. He's like the 3rd tier of like elite centers. There's so many good centers in the NHL, but he's getting up there, and I just love him. Watching him on the puck. I think he led the NHL in puck possession time, like physically himself. So he's just so much fun. His edge work is probably top 5 in the league, up there with Makar and insert Hughes' brother here. But he's unreal. I think he's so much fun to watch, and I would pick him on my NHL team, in my fantasy draft, you name it. Like, he's on my team. That's my guy right there.
I love Barzal. I love everything. I love everything about this team. They have one of the best GMs in the league in Lou Lamoriello. Love him or hate him, he's one of the best. One of the best head coaches in Barry Trotz.
I would say top 2, if not the best.
Probably the best.
Yeah.
John Cooper, Barry Trotz, John
Quenneville, and all those guys Canadian. So
yeah, all those guys. Put them wherever, and it's probably fair.
Yep.
Their system is one of the best. They play some of the best. It's probably boring to watch, but it's some of the best system hockey, and that's what I love about a team sport like that. Is that if you watch enough Islanders hockey, where everybody should be. Like, who's got to be, picking up for who's got to be where, what guy's going after the puck, who's going into corner, who's going for the break. Like, it's superb hockey to watch.
Especially if you're more than just a casual fan. If
absolutely,
you're, and if you know the game, they're an elite team to watch, especially with their systems work and how how systems are.
Sure. And I love their defense.
Yeah.
Their goaltending I really like.
Dare I say Pulock and Pelech, best deep pairing in the NHL?
There's an argument to be made for that.
There really is.
There really is. It's tough to argue against it.
Yep.
With that being said, this team is really good. They're going to a new arena. They're not going to be at the Coliseum this year. They're going to be at the UBS Arena, which is going to be by wherever they do the U.S. Open tennis.
Flushing Meadows. Still on Long Island, but again, that's the thing. I was going to talk about their fan base. The Coliseum's timeless, absolutely timeless. The atmosphere in there is absolutely rowdy, and I really hope they can replicate it at UBS. I'm thinking they will.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. That's part of what makes the Islanders so cool is the fact that they're just like, it's a party, it's a show, and it's loud all the time.
Oh yeah. I remember, I'm not sure, this was 2018, the year Tavares went to the Leafs. I think it was 2018-19. The first game back,
Yeah.
there was like a 6-minute clip. I've watched it several times to this point. Like, toss in some headphones, like deafening. Absolutely deafening. I mean, they're ripping Tavares to shreds, but
absolutely.
Yeah,
no, Tavares, like, he got roasted when he went back to the Coliseum, and the Islanders are just, they're awesome.
They're awesome. Oh, for sure. They're definitely making the playoffs for sure in this division.
Definitely making the playoffs. So with that being said, who's the player to watch on the Islanders this season?
I mean, we spent about 5 minutes talking about Barzal, so I'll let him be, because obviously he's a guy to really watch out for. I'm gonna say, Ryan Pulock.
Okay.
And it's a pretty easy pick, but again, he's so solid. He is such a solid defenseman. I think he's a guy that, I don't know, gonna take a big jump. There's a bunch of guys here that the Islanders have picked up, but I'm sure we'll get into and talk about them later. But I'm gonna say Pulock because he could, depending on how his possessions numbers are and how he puts up points, he might be in the run for the Norris.
I have two.
Okay.
And there's a reason why I have two. There's a big reason and smaller reasons, but
sure.
I have Noah Dobson.
Yep. Love him.
And Oliver Wahlstrom.
Oh, nice.
So the reason I have both of them is because they were both taken in the 2018 draft.
Back-to-back picks as well.
Back-to-back picks. Like, they were back-to-back picks. So there is that connection. Like, when I think of Dobson, I think of Wahlstrom. And when I think of Wahlstrom, I think of Dobson.
Yep.
Those two guys together. With that being said, Wahlstrom's not he's not taking over the Jordan Eberle role, but he is going to be they are expecting him to be an impactful third line winger for this team this season. And he might score 30, 40 points.
Yeah.
If he has a really breakout year, depending on if he gets some power play time too, maybe.
Yeah, he might actually. He's got Wahlstrom can really rip the puck.
He's great. He got a great shot.
He was also the guy, fun fact, in I forget what tournament it was called, but he was 9 years old. He was the one that did the Michigan as a 9-year-old kid.
That's right.
You remember that clip?
I kind of know that clip.
Yeah. Anyways, that was Wahlstrom. That was in TD Garden in Boston. He did that as a 9-year-old kid. Absolutely, schooled a goal. It was ridiculous.
And then Dobson, I have him. I think he's gonna have a bigger role. He's probably gonna be a top 4 center top 4 defenseman for most of this year.
Yep.
Can he fit in the system? Is he going to be a fit in the Barry Trotz system? Is he going to be able to perform well? He's not Pelican Pulock, good yet, but he's still going to be one of the best defensemen, I think, this upcoming season.
I think Dobson's due for a big step. He's, like you said, he's getting a bigger role. He's going to play more minutes. And, having a guy, again, the Islanders just signed Chara to basically like a base level salary. And he's going to be a really good guy for Dobson to kind of learn from.
So I'm excited to see the Islanders this year. Let's round it out with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yep.
Last team we have not discussed yet in the Metro Division. I don't know, man. They're also a weird, but in a good way, I think, type. I want to say because I mean, I don't know about their goaltending this upcoming year. I think they really made a mistake letting Nedeljkovic walk for Freddie and Antti Raanta.
Yeah.
I think Nedeljkovic is a really good goalie, and I think they're making a mistake there. But I mean, Slavin, one of the best defensemen in the NHL.
Yep.
They got Ethan Bear, who I really like, who I think it was unfortunate how his season ended last year.
I will say Ethan Bear's not he's not a top 4 defenseman, but he's going to be a really good, like, third pairing defenseman on this team. I personally believe.
And they got Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Yep.
Presumably, I guess he's going to play on the third line with Jordan Staal. That seems like the right.
Where Daily Faceoff has them right now with Jesper Frost on that line as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this team is kind of all over the place, but I think there's enough talent here to do well.
I agree with that. There really is. And one thing I want to say about Carolina, their top 6 is unbelievably good.
I mean, you fucking look at like Trocheck, who I think is a really good center. Their first line is fucking good.
Yeah.
Nation.
How good is Svechnikov though?
Oh God,
dude, like unbelievable. Like Michigan's aside, that's everyone hypes him up for I did the Michigan twice, and that's great. He's got the skill, but if you just watch him play, he's just such a force.
I mean, I think Aho is probably my favorite Carolina forward, but
there's an argument for a bunch of guys on that team. But.
Oh yeah, like I don't think you can have a wrong pick. Like I think Svechnikov is really fucking good. I think Sebastian Aho is good. Oh, and by the way, Teuvo Teravainen, also good player.
Also pretty good. And Martin Necas, let's just not forget about him.
Necas. I like Vincent Trocheck. Even Niederreiter's really like come to his own in Carolina.
Yeah.
I like where this team is going.
Yep.
I don't like the D'Angelo signing because I think he's a bit of a locker room cancer. I think that's tough that's tough, and the goalies. Those are like the two things that really bother me with the Hurricanes. It's D'Angelo and the goalies.
I will say with the Hurricanes, we talked about good coaches and Barry Trotz with the Islanders. Rod Brind'Amour is the coach of the Hurricanes, and he's a guy that's not going to take any shit. And I think D'Angelo has had some issues. Don't get me wrong, he has. But I think Brind'Amour is one of those guys that can maybe snap it out of him. And when D'Angelo's on, he's actually a pretty good player.
Oh, sure. I'm like, so basically coming out soon is a 2014 NHL redraft with SYP Creator Ravisher. And we talked about Tony D'Angelo for a bit. And we both said, what kind of player you're getting with Tony D'Angelo. Like, what he brings to the table.
On the ice.
On the ice, you know what you're getting with him as a like quality defenseman. Yes, Aho broke his ankles in the bubble, but like for the most part, you kind of know what he brings to the table, and he wasn't a bad defenseman. The issue becomes when you're fighting your goalies, when you were promoting all your Trump stuff, when you're getting all into the political aspect of it, where you're alienating some of your fans and your teammates, that becomes a problem. I'm wondering if it changed in Carolina. Apparently they're 100% vaccinated, so maybe that is something that helps. Maybe he's changed in that regard. I don't know. I just, if there's two things that I really worry about with the Hurricanes, it's D'Angelo and goaltending.
Okay, so then who's your X factor with that in mind?
With that in mind, I think it's Kotkaniemi.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I mean, I think he's in a really good spot where they're not asking him to do a whole lot. He's just got to be, a solid third line left wing. He might get some special teams time, grow a little bit. It's kind of like the guy that I sort of compared him to, I was thinking about comparing him to. Do you remember Brandon Ingram in the NBA many years ago when he was playing for the Lakers, where people compared him to like Kevin Durant? He's like skinny Kevin Durant. Sure. And if he could only put on 50 pounds, or if he could, grow, he's got this whole body that he needs to grow into, then he's going to be a great player.
Right.
And it's just like, that's kind of what I'm hearing about Kotkaniemi, of somebody who's like, if he can grow into this body, if he can get stronger and be tougher or whatever, he's going to be a great player. what took Ingram the time to, what got him kind of over this hump or to the player that we thought he was, he played for New Orleans and he got out of LA and he, change of place was really nice. Maybe that's what it is.
Bit of a hot market too. I will say Montreal is no easy place to play. And with media as it is, albeit, English or French speaking, it's still a wild atmosphere, right? So Carolina's a little bit of a slower pace in some aspects. I think he'll be good. And again, he's got Aho, he's got Teravainen, 2 Finnish guys with him. Might be really, like you said, it might be really good for him.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. My player to watch is Kotkaniemi.
I like it.
Who's yours?
Frederick Anderson.
That's a good answer.
You talk about goaltending being a concern. Frederick Anderson is going to have a bit of a bounce back year. He kind of was in the shadow, injured a little bit last year and also Jack Campbell played a lot more than he did in Toronto. Frederick Anderson is a good goalie, former Anaheim Duck. I'm not biased at all here. I'm actually like telling you the truth here. He is a good goalie, and in front of a team like the Hurricanes, albeit they did lose Hamilton, which is a big loss. Don't get me wrong, but they have the organizational depth to kind of replace the defensive capabilities of the team, and I think Anderson will have a good year. And the Hurricanes are my number 1 seed right now, but we'll see what happens.
All right, you want to go through playoff teams then? What our playoff predictions are going to be?
Let's do it.
You go first.
I have Carolina at 1.
Okay.
The Flyers at 2 because of my hot take.
All right.
Islanders at 3. Ianlanders at 3. Sorry, and then the Penguins at 4. Capitals on the 5 at 5 outside looking in.
Okay, and then Rangers 6, Devils 7.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. My prediction, I have the Islanders first, the Ianlanders first.
Yep.
A little bit of bias, but mostly I love everything that's going on with the team right now.
Oh, they're sick. Yeah, they're so sick.
Carolina 2nd.
Yep.
I have Washington 3rd.
Ooh.
I have Philly 4th, and I have Pittsburgh missing the playoffs.
Yep.
With the Rangers 6th, the Devils 7th, and Columbus 8th.
Yeah, well, at least our bottom 3 are consensus.
Well, pretty much. It's 1 through 6. That's like a total crapshoot in this division.
And we could be the Rangers could finish 3rd here. You just don't know.
The Rangers could make the playoffs, and Washington and Pittsburgh could miss,
especially if Shesterkin stands on his head and the defense plays like average. With that forward core, you just never know.
So. And that's kind of where I'm at with the Metro.
Yep.
I don't know if any of us are I think both of us are probably going to be wrong by the end because I just think this is just such a crapshoot.
Yeah, no doubt. There's 2 things I think are right. The Hurricanes and the Islanders are both definitely making the playoffs.
Is that so? If that's if we had to guarantee, here's what is going to happen instead of telling people what we don't know. What's your one guarantee? Is that Carolina Islanders make the playoffs?
100%.
Okay.
They're both as the Islanders. I would put $100 on it. No, I'm not going to, but if I was to, I would put $100 on Islanders make the playoffs, and I'd be confident in that.
I will. My guarantee is that the Islanders, they may not finish first, but they're going to be the top team. They're going to finish in the top 4.
Yep.
The Islanders will finish in the top 4.
They'll go to the conference final.
They'll go to the conference finals.
I like it.
That's my one guarantee. That's my one. I know for sure.
Yep.
They will go to the conference finals.
I mean, I think they're the best playoff team in this division, and they are built the best for sure.
Actually, I was going to say the other team that I think if they get in could do really well in the playoffs are the Rangers.
Okay.
They just have to get in.
They need to get in though. That's the hard part.
That's the hard part. Yeah. Scott, any other final thoughts? We had a really good golf chat with Max. We got a really good Metro preview in. Any other final thoughts before we head out here?
No, I'm happy. This is the Metro. I don't know if it was more fun to do this podcast. The Atlantic was so obvious. The teams are kind of who's going to make it, who's not. This was a little more fun. It was fun to see the changes and, again, it's going to be fun to see this year. And we could be very wrong. We could see the Capitals and the Penguins and the Flyers miss the playoffs. And you could see the Rangers in, maybe even the Devils. You just don't know.
Who the hell knows? I don't know any of this. So that's the podcast. Thank you to Max for coming on, talking about the Ryder Cup earlier. Shout out to Scott. Thank you to Scott for taking the time to talk about both golf and hockey. Next week, we will be discussing the Central Division and all that entails with that division. That's also kind of a crapshoot.
That's going to be the hardest division to predict. In my opinion, that's a total shit show.
All right.
Out in the Midwest, in the Central. But we'll see how it goes.
Be sure to check out our SYP Edmonton takeover this weekend. I'm going to Edmonton to cover rugby and not get COVID. Those are my 2 goals this weekend. There's actually a Hitman Oil Kings game on Friday night, preseason game, that I'm thinking about going to. Maybe we'll see about that.
You probably get media credits for it, so
I could ask and see. It's not at Rogers Place. It's at their downtown community rink or whatever in Edmonton.
Right.
And I also got denied media creds to cover the Canucks training camp Thursday in Abbotsford. So nice. I got denied. So pretty much we are now an anti-Canucks / anti-Oilers podcast from now on.
So you're saying we're a Flames podcast? Is that what you're saying to me?
We might be a Flames podcast. That may be what we're are.
Of all our viewers, that might make 2 people happy. Out of all of our listeners, I really hope we're not a Flames podcast because
I've always loved Johnny Gaudreau. Anyways, so be sure to check out my takeover in Edmonton this weekend. It's gonna be exciting. I got a couple articles coming out on the way as well. As I mentioned too, we have a 2014 NHL redraft pod with SYP creator Ravisher coming out here in the next few days. So be sure to stay tuned to that. Thank you again to Scott for taking the time to do this. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll be back again soon. Be sure, if you're watching on YouTube, like the vid, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Spotify, make sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, you'll find Speak Your Piece. Again, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again soon. Peace out.